let her get those straightened out. So we'll get started. The first thing I want to do is start off with a question for Dale, and then once he answers that, then we'll go around and I will ask you to introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and then go ahead and ask your question. Okay, sound good?
Yes.
Sounds great.
All right, good. Okay, so Dale, obviously this is unprecedented. We are isolated from each other. We're isolated from the backside, from horse racing. So give us an idea of what it's been like and how it's going at the barn since this pandemic came down. How are the humans? How are the horses?
Well, so far, all the horses are doing fine. All the people in our barn are doing fine. You know, we're under strict protocol here at Gulf Stream Park. When you go into the backside, every morning checking your temperature. It's mandatory that every person on the backside has a mask on, employees and employees of Gulfstream Park and any grooms, exercise riders, hot walkers, anybody working on the back. So far, everyone's been doing what they're supposed to do. And we haven't had any cases on the backside that I've heard of or anyone turning around at the gate for having a temperature. You know, I understand this is serious stuff we're going through, and it's been tough, though. I'll tell you, it's the first time in my life that I cannot remember not going to Keeneland in the spring or being back in Kentucky. I just shaved a minute ago. I told Tammy I wasn't shaved until I went back to Kentucky, but I was getting a little I went ahead and shaved, but I don't know. It's been depressing. But, you know, really, if you look at it, if you want to what's going on around the country and the world, these are luxury problems, and this too shall pass, and we're back to normal. We're lucky we have Gulfstream that we can still run, and Oakland's still running, and it's going gangbusters. They're betting on them like crazy. I guess everybody's locked in their house and there's something to do. So I think horse racing is providing a service.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Let's start with Tracy. Tracy, you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, Tracy, just introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and then ask your question.
Sure. I'm Tracy Blake, and I'm from Burlington, Kentucky. And I want to say thank you to both of you, to Dale and to Gwen for coordinating this as well. And my question is, Dale, what do you believe are some of the challenges in the horse racing industry in the short term, and then also from a longer term perspective?
Well, I think, are you talking pandemic problems that are going to, there's a lot of issues. Well, there's a lot of issues out there. First of all, we should touch on the FBI issue. You know, the FBI came in a couple of months ago and arrested a couple of high profile trainers for presumably cheating, and I think that more to come from what I hear. I think that's a major problem. I think that, but it's a problem, but it's also a good thing. Let's clean the game. If somebody's cheating, let's clean it up and let's get them on out. And it shows you that the system works. They cheated, they got caught. Maybe it went on longer than people would have liked to have seen. That's going to be, I think, still a big issue for the rest of this year. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the issues of budget shortfalls for places that are subsidized, cities and states that are racings that are subsidized the state's casino industry. If you know, I want we're trying to take some of that purse money and put it into the general fund. I don't think it would happen in Kentucky, but it would happen in New York. You know, and I think that out of this, it'll get back to normal. It's going to be an odd year with the Derby in an odd place and the Triple Crown divide. The Derby did run in June one time before, you know, during World War II. So it's not unprecedented.
Yeah.
Okay, Tracy, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Nikki, I'm unmuting you. Hold on a minute. Okay, you have been unmuted. Nikki, introduce yourself and then go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Nikki Wallace. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Gwen and Dale, thank you both for doing this today. Dale, my question for you is putting pedigree and conformation to the side for just a second. What are you looking for in a 2-year-old that gives you an idea that they have a mind for the work and are going to be competitive as racehorses?
Well, that's a very good question, but we can't put conformation and pedigree aside. Everything works hand in hand. But when you get them to the racetrack, you may have a beautifully conformed horse and with a beautiful pedigree, and he doesn't like to train or doesn't like to run. And if that's the case, there's nothing you can do about it. And sometimes you'll have one with little pedigree and is not the best conformation. It just has that will to win and will to compete. And that's one of the most interesting things. And one of the things that Tammy and I are missing the most this time of year is the new crop of babies coming in and getting to know them and let them show themselves. Because once they get there, I mean, a month after being there, you can tell who's wanting to be a racehorse and who's kind of not liking their job. But mostly it's competitiveness when we start working them together. It's their eagerness to get to the racetrack. They don't refuse. They want to do their work in the mornings. You can tell right away that they like what they're doing. And it's a beautiful thing to watch as they mature from day one when they get there and they go out. They look like a covey of quail going down the backside, all ducking and diving from everything they see, to a month later when they've got their heads bowed and they're training side by side and they're wanting to get competitive with one another. And we start working them. And, every one of them's a Derby horse until they aren't. So this time of year, we're used to having about 25 good colts in there that we're pointing towards the Kentucky Derby. But a good question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nikki. Okay, Marv, I'm going to unmute you. You have been unmuted.
Sorry about the environmental problems here.
That's okay. We're all dealing with it. So, Marv, go ahead and introduce yourself and ask your question.
All right. I'm Marvin Bostock. I'm from Clarksville, Indiana. I hope you're well, Dale and Gwen. I'm interested, obviously. I love Derby time here. Everybody does. I don't know anybody that don't. But your prospects for the rest of the year, with this being such a strange year, I know you've got some that you're looking forward to getting to the track, getting back into the races. Can you give us some insight on what you're most excited about with your prospects for the rest of the year?
Hey, we've still got a bunch of good horses are out here. I haven't given up on Dennis's moment. The postponing the Kentucky didn't do anything but help him. And he came, he didn't run like we expected in the Fountain Youth. He came back with a small issue that is very fixable. Taking our time, and we're actually starting over like this is actually December, pointing towards September. And don't be surprised for him to come back and do very well. And then our other colt we're running this Saturday, he's a nice colt too. Attachment rate, he's was third in the Gotham and is just now learning. And he got started at Churchill and then twisted an ankle a little bit when he ran his first time, ran terrible. We always knew he could run, so we got a late start back with him when he broke his maiden. So backing up the Derby is going to do us a lot of good with him. And I'm hoping, from what I hear, is Keeneland's going to run 5 days sometime this summer to get their major stakes that they would have run in the spring in play. And that would be, so the Bluegrass would still be a major stepping stone to the Kentucky Derby in September, as odd as that sounds. But he's going to run Saturday. Gulfstream Park has done a good thing. They've changed their book and their races a little bit around for the horses that are here. They're not used to this group of horses being here this late. Most of us have either scattered out to New York or Chicago or Kentucky. And so they put this special 3-0 race up Saturday. It's going to be a good race for $75,000 and no points. But I think Attachment Rate's a really good horse. And then, of course, you got Promises Fulfilled coming back. We got Mr. Freeze is doing super. And there's a lot of nice colts and horses down through there that I think have potential to go on and be very nice. We're late bloomers, and we were pointing everything in our stable basically points from April 1st to December 1st. And down here in the winter, we try to get them, everybody doing well, getting healthy, win a few races, and get back home. So it's kind of changed the program, but we'll just have to learn to change. I'm not good at change, but I'm going to try to be better at it.
Thanks, Marv. Next, hold on, Scott. Let me unmute you. All right, Scott McKinnon, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Scott McKinnon, and I'm from Southlake, Texas. And Dale, I'm curious, outside of pedigree, how do you dial in the best distances and surfaces for the different horses that you train?
That's another good question. Especially one thing I never have understood, and I don't think anybody can tell you exactly why pedigree makes a difference on a surface a horse likes. But it does play true. Kittens Joys run on grass like he did. And I like to take everything that I buy. I like to buy young horses with distance pedigrees that are going to run on the dirt, obviously to be Triple Crown type of horses, to run in the classics. And then along the way, you'll try to figure out, well, maybe this one's not as fast on the dirt, and you'll transfer him over to the turf. Or if you have one that does everything right, for instance, and but when the racing comes, he really can't accelerate. Sometimes you try those horses on the turf, and they can accelerate and finish a little bit better. And then, of course, distances, you just figure out their stamina as you're training them, and which ones have the best stamina, which ones don't. And it's pretty quick and easy to figure out. One of the things I like to judge my horses off of, especially at Churchill Rounds, is I stay in the clocker stand at a half-mile pole and say, well, work 5/8 of a mile. We'll start at the half mile and we'll end at the 7/8 pole. I like to run an eighth of a mile past the wires and have them running under the wire and through it and around the turn. If they gallop out past me, pull up at the about an eighth of a mile past where I usually stand or sit, and they walk by and they've caught their breath already and they've recovered. Recovery time, like any athlete, is very important in a racehorse to show you what kind of stamina they're going to have. And if you've got one that can work a solid 5/8 in a minute and pull up over by the kitchen eighth of a mile from where we are, turn around, take a deep breath, and walk back like that and done anything, and I get a couple of thumbs up from Tammy, then we've got a good racehorse.
That's great. Thank you very much. And by the way, would love the work you've done with Sally's Curlin. Very excited about her.
Big Texas connections with Sally.
You got it.
Yeah, bunch of Texans. That's good stuff. She's a good filly, and thank you for noticing.
We love Sally. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to see if Lorena is on here. 1 second. Let me unmute. Hey, Lorena, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Well, we can't see you, but as long as we can hear you, I guess you can go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, I'm Lorena Taft. I'm from Saratoga Springs, New York, and I currently live in Aiken, South Carolina. And thank you for the invite, Gwen, and nice to talk to you, Dale Romans. My question for you is, which horse was the most difficult for you to train and why?
The most difficult good horse I had is a horse that I had for Ahmed Zayat, Thorn Song. And he wanted to end up winning 2 grade 1s, and he had 3 trainers and a fracture in his back leg before I ever got him. And Ahmed told me just give him a chance and see if he can make it. And he had all the talent in the world. But when he would go to the racetrack, he would prop, he would stop immediately, throw the riders. There was not one rider that wasn't thrown off of him in the mornings at some point. But for some reason, if I would turn him around and go the wrong way on the racetrack, and this happens with quite a few horses, he would go perfect. But there's a rule on the racetrack. If you go the opposite way, you have to go slow. So we ended up taking him out when we proved he was a good horse and he was worth the effort and what Churchill would help me do. We would go out and they would almost block off all the gaps so he wouldn't run at them and let me gallop a little bit faster the wrong way with him. And that way, but when the rider would feel like he could really work, like he felt like he was interested that day and wanted to do something, he'd turn him around and work him. And we always had we had a window of opportunity. I said, today's the day. If he feels good, don't worry about putting a little breeze into him. We'll turn him around if he acts like he's going to do it. And that was a horse that was very rewarding. He took a long time to break his maiden. He's one of those horses I talked about that didn't accelerate when he was on the dirt. It was like 8 times before he broke his maiden. We put him over on the grass, and he won 2 grade 1s. And that was very rewarding to get him to do as well as he did with the way he acted and the way he was around on the racetrack. Around the barn, he was fine. But I think a lot of it was he just had a mind of his own. He was going to do what he wanted that day. And I figured out early, you're not going to win an argument with them. So just you might as well work with what they want to do. And he did enough to make himself a grade 1 winner. Good question.
Thank you, Lorena. Thanks for that question. Lisa, you're up. I don't know if I'm talking to you through your phone or the screen. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me okay?
Can you speak up just a little bit better?
Okay, I'll speak up. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, technologically challenged out here. But anyway, my name is Lisa Krieger, and I live near Fort Myers, Florida. So in a normal year, I'd be overwhelmed that you're still at Gulfstream because that's my track. Between Gulfstream and Tampa Bay Downs, those are my tracks. So I was going there every weekend until this disaster hit us. But anyway, and I really appreciate you two doing this. I think this is a really special thing to do for fans. So thank you. So Dale, my question is, how often and how do you manage owners who think their horse has more talent than it actually does? And how do you address owners who want to push their horse into a situation where the horse might be overfed?
Well, there's a loaded question. You the owners that act like that. All my clients are perfect. They're understanding. They know what their horse's value is. But I'm sure if people that don't have those type of owners, it is an issue to manage sometimes. And you got to understand it. This is people's baby. And so a lot of times, most of the guys are realistic. People I deal with today are people who are pretty realistic, and they've got a major investment, a major expense to keep sending them a bill every month. And so they want to run where they can win. And a lot of times it's just in the delivery, how you tell them. It's not easy to tell a guy that a horse he paid $750,000 for isn't very talented.
Yeah.
But it's fact. Sell it up front. And but I have to say, I'm one of the ones to give in at the last minute. I always think we can figure out a way to make them good or make them better. I've got a couple of owners. Jason Lucius is one of them. He stays on about being more realistic to myself sometimes about what we have and what we're working with. And a lot of them do come around and do improve, but they always find their spot somewhere. You just have to manage the people. Sometimes it's harder than managing the horses. But you just got the way you deliver it. And it's almost like telling someone their kid's not good enough to play on the high school team. Sometimes it's not taken very well, but most people I deal with are good, and nobody that I work with has ever asked me. Now, I'll run horses in big races, and a lot of times I'll be taking shots, and it's worked for me. A lot of times it hasn't. But people only remember the times it works. But we only do that when the horse is healthy, when there's no real chance it's going to be overexerted and get injured, and we think that he has a chance to shock the world. And we've done it a lot of times, and it's worked. Done it several times and it hasn't worked out. We regroup and go back to basics.
Thank you.
All right.
But
I
thank
thought
you
that
for your
was
question.
I thought that was a good question.
I did too, but it's around there for a little bit.
It's a sticky wicket, but it's a great question. All right, Sherry, you're up.
Be around people who are passionate about their horses and love their horses. So that's a good thing too. It can go both ways.
Right. Sherry, can you hear me? You're up next.
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
Hi. Thanks for doing this. My name is Sherry from York, Pennsylvania. My question is, what is your favorite and most memorable race that you've ever entered a horse in?
But that's a question that's asked quite a bit, and it's one of my favorite questions because people are surprised a lot of times at my answers. I mean, 1987, Miss Mindy, February 15th, maiden 3,500 at Turfway Park. I couldn't have been any happier that day than when I won my first race as a horse trainer. I always wanted to be a trainer my entire life, and once I had my name on the program, that was a proud day. But the first time I stood in the winner's circle as trainer and owner, and it's a good story that I bought the filly for $1,500, and a story's been told a lot of times. And there was a young girl working for my father, like I was, that I met when I was still in high school, Laura, and she was galloping horses and had wanted to be a jockey. And Miss Mindy chipped her knee, and I didn't have any money, and the guy told me there's this young doctor up in Ohio State University just got through with a residency. We'll take that chip out for $800. So I put her in a 2-horse trailer. I was 19 years old. I think took her up there and took that chip out, gave him $800. Now it came time to start training her again after the knee healed up. I didn't have any money to pay anybody to get on her. So I made a deal with Laura. If you'll gallop her every day for me, Laura, you can ride her for me. And in the meantime, she had ridden a few races, but she had never won one. Well, Miss Mindy at Turfway Park, close to Burlington, Kentucky, started getting better and better. And when we went and ran her maiden 3,500, and she won by 7. It was my first win as a trainer, the horse's first win as a horse. It was Laura's first win as a jockey, and the veterinarian that operated on her, it was the first horse she ever operated on, that came back and won a race, and that was the very famous surgeon Larry Bramlage, that's now world-renowned at Rood and Riddle. And So I've won the Dubai World Cup. I've won the Preakness, and I've won 3 Breeders' Cups and a lot of special races. Travers being a Triple Crown winner. And every one of them has their high, but none of them were even topped Miss Mindy, the first win I ever had. They all maybe were equal and they're different, but Miss Mindy is the thrill of my life.
Great
And Laura,
question.
still to this day, Laura went back to school, got a degree in accounting, and runs my life. She takes all the books for the stable. It's almost 30 years later.
Just remember, we're recording this, so this has been documented.
Yes.
Yes.
I loved everything about that.
Yeah. All right.
That's a great question, Sherry. Great answer, Dale. And last but not least, Miss Deanna. Let me unmute you. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, go ahead. You're our last question. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name's Deanna Toles-Lamonte. I'm joining from Louisville, Kentucky. And I'd like to say hi to Dale. Good to see you, Dale.
Hello,
First,
good to see you.
congratulations to you, Dale Romans and Dale Romans Racing, for all of the success that you have enjoyed over the years. I'm super proud to always say, Dale, that you and I were high school classmates. And my question, though, Dale, is how does it feel to be such a success? How does it feel to be a hometown hero?
Yeah. Well, I think that you might think more of that than the rest of the hometown, but because we've known each other so long. But Louisville's a great place. It's the greatest city in the country, in my opinion. And the people, the support that I get from around there, unbelievable. Pleasure. That's one of the things I hate about not being in the spring in Kentucky and back with all my friends, back with you guys. And but no, I love Louisville, and I love the way that they've responded to my career and followed it. And I know if I ever Kentucky Derby, it'll be for all of Kentucky and all of Louisville, and we'll have it all the time that night.
You know, Dale, I've got to kind of chime in here, only because I'm an outsider to this town. I come from Pennsylvania. I came to work for Dale, and making that walkover at the Kentucky Derby, and just to see and hear the level of love and just cheering you on, and come on, Dale, and I mean, it really gives you goosebumps, and that's not something you should take for granted, because this town really does love you, Dale, and it's so obvious to anybody on the outside.
And it's never taken for granted. And I love that town, and that's just a testament for Louisville. I mean, Louisville's a great sports town, and it loves all their sporting people that come there. You know, the support I get from people all the way back to high school is just unbelievable, and I really appreciate it.
Right. Well, I think that's probably a good place for us to end. I want to just again say thank you to all of you for participating, and also for constantly supporting us on social media and supporting the barn and Dale and all of us. And thanks for participating. And hopefully, Dale, maybe this will be the first of many. We'll see.
Thank you for being guinea pigs today, and I hope to see you back in Kentucky very soon.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks again.
Thank you.